Idaho death row inmate Thomas Creech's execution is moving forward.
We're at the People's House of Idaho, and the power of government to take a human life is the one thing that none of us here want to give the government.
So many faith organizations, civil rights organizations, and individual Idahoans are here standing in opposition to this execution.
Life is not ours to take or to end.
We stand here once again to protest the action of the state and its use of the barbaric system of the death penalty.
We're now in the Idaho State Capitol. We're going to go into the governor's office, ask to be heard, and share our petition and our demand that they halt this execution.
It's just amazing the number of people that have come out in support at various churches and elsewhere. And we hope to have a really good turnout tomorrow to our last chance to oppose the execution of Thomas Creech.
I'm a clergy in the United Methodist Church, and this morning I'm gathered with a group of clergy and laity to protest the execution of Thomas Creech.
This didn't solve anything. This didn't help anything. Just thinking today of all the victims and just praying for the whole process.
First, I'd like to express my deep gratitude for Abe and Suzanne for coming out and organizing us and helping us to get our heads around what this means in our society and in our community.
So death penalty action comes wherever we need to go to support local abolitionists who want to stand up and lift their voices to oppose executions. It's an honor for us to have groups like the ACLU and the United Methodist Church and others ask us to come and help them. And that's what we do. We help lift up the voices of people who want to say no to executions. Oh, that jumped off a little bit quick, but greetings everybody. Welcome, sadly, to another live virtual vigil. My name is Abe Bonowitz with Death Penalty Action. I want to note that this is a space, as we say in the registration, when you get on the Zoom, this is a safe space for people who are against the death penalty. We're not here to debate it, and people that are raising any concerns in the chat will be removed from the Zoom. So there's the warning, and similarly on the other channel. So I'm here actually from Salt Lake City, Utah, actually a little suburb called Sandy, just outside of Salt Lake City. Charles Keith is here with me, and Randy Gardner, whose brother is the last person executed in Utah, and Suzanne Bosler is around here somewhere, and we'll all be joining in. But tonight, first, and we're here in Utah, of course, because there's likely to be an execution tonight here in Utah, and we'll be back here starting at 11 p.m. Mountain Time. So even later, and don't feel like y'all must be here. But of course, we would like to be in company, and I will be with these others and the folks here in Utah outside at the prison, or at the so-called free speech zone in the prison. But for this evening, for the next hour or two, we are here about Arthur Burton, who is scheduled to be executed in Texas in an hour from now. And there's a number of folks with us, and we're going to introduce them. But first, as we always do, we want to remember the victims in the case. And with that, we have a video, again, as usual, from Cantor Mike Zusman. So let's remember the victims here.
Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you. Cantor Michael Zusman with the thousands of members of L'Chaim, Jews Against the Death Penalty, standing with you at Death Penalty Action. If you're watching this video, it means that there's going to be another state-sponsored murder. As always, we remember the victims. This is a memorial prayer from the Jewish tradition for the victim of Arthur Burton, who's scheduled to be made a new victim by the state of Texas today. Arthur's victim, Nancy Jean Bukoy Adleman, Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be a blessing. Nancy Jean Bukoy Adleman. She was born on July 4th, 1949, the very same day and year as a dear member of my family, my aunt, and she was murdered while jogging on July 30th, 1997. I ask you, no matter what spiritual background or secular life stance you're from, just to put her in your thoughts now as we say these memorial words. El Malei Rachamim Shocheh B'Amaromim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashechina B'Ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kezohar Rakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Nancy Jean Bukoy Adleman Shehalcha Le'olama B'Gan Eden Ze'Menuchata Ana Ba'al Rachamim Astirecha B'Seter Knafecha Le'olamim Utzror B'Tzror HaChayim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachlata V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. Alecha HaShalom. Peace upon Nancy Jean Bukoy Adleman now. May her beloved spirit, her abiding spirit, be an everlasting inspiration for all who are blessed to know her. May her loved ones be comforted among all the mourners of the world. May the killings end. L'chaim.
Amen. Thank you, Cantor Zusman and L'chaim to us all, to life. I want to start just by, because I know she needs to go soon, but our summer intern, Sarah Corbett, is with us from the U.S. Supreme Court. So, Sarah, show us where you're at and give us a greeting there, and maybe see what happens when you turn your camera sideways.
I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know how to quite turn my camera around, but I think you can
perfect.
see.
That's much better.
Right now I'm at the Supreme Court, and as Abe said, I'm the summer intern for death penalty action. So right here, right now I'm wearing my Stop Execution shirt, and I guess I don't really have anyone with me, so it's just me, but it's more kind of symbolic I'm on the ground where not only we had our annual fast and vigil, but also the place where which made the decision that allowed for federal executions and executions to resume in general. So I guess this is the real scene of the crime.
It's one of them, and we're going to hear about keep your camera sideways, and we're going to that's just a better format for Zoom. Anyway, thank you for being there, and we're going to be trying, and we have a group of students that have started up at George Washington University, and when they come back, then we're hopeful that they'll have maintain a regular vigil at the time of executions for us at the U.S. Supreme Court. So thank you, Sarah, for being there with us. And now we'll hear a little bit about the malfeasance of the U.S. Supreme Court from our friend and colleague, Rob Dunham with the Death Penalty Policy Project to fill us in on the injustices of today.
Well, that's a great introduction. This is just another one of the executions that makes you question the effect or existence of the rule of law in death penalty cases. You know, the federal Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, clearly says you can't execute an individual who's intellectually disabled. And the normal rules of appellate review say that when somebody files a pleading, you have to accept the facts as pled as true. And when those are filed and they relate to the question of intellectual disability, if a person has made what in Latin is called a prima facie case, in other words, if you believe what the person says, then you would find in their favor. They made a prima facie case that Arthur Burton is intellectually disabled, which means that he would not be eligible for the death penalty. The Texas courts declined to hear his case, saying that it was untimely, should have been filed earlier, and the lawyers took it up to the Supreme Court. The Texas Attorney General defended the denial of review for Mr. Burton by presenting facts that were not present anywhere in the record, bringing in their own doctor to say that Mr. Burton was not intellectually disabled. First of all, you can't do that. You're limited to the facts that appear on the record. And second, as the defense pointed out, if they had to present facts from somebody else to say that Mr. Burton was not intellectually disabled, that's tantamount to an admission that Mr. Burton's lawyers had pled enough facts to require a stay of execution to be granted so the court could evaluate the claim. So that's the issue as it went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, without dissent, said no, we're not going to hear it. It's an unpublished. Well, it's a basically one sentence summary disposition saying the petition for certiorari is denied, the application for a stay of execution is denied. So once again, if you believe that you're supposed to follow the regular rules for how cases get decided, then this outcome is not sustainable. If we go back to what appears to be the basic rule in these cases, the United States Supreme Court is going to let virtually any procedural defect go unrectified in death penalty stay cases.
Well, yet again, we're in a space where, but for the opportunity to present your arguments, we're having an execution, it would seem. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, pretty much. And one of the things, the Atkins decision that said you can't execute individuals with intellectual disability is an important landmark decision. But as I think I may have mentioned at one of the earlier vigils, the key justices who made that decision happen were Justice Kennedy and Justice Ginsburg. And there is now a majority of the court who either dissented from that decision or were appointed to the court as conservative justices later on. It is unclear, and I suspect the lack of clarity is a good thing for death penalty opponents. It's unclear whether, if that case came up now, it would have come out in Mr. Atkins' favor. But what we've seen is, in case after case, this court has refused to apply Atkins, and it has excused states from following Atkins by saying that by refusing to hear issues like in Georgia, you have to prove intellectual disability beyond a reasonable doubt, an impossible standard, and in Florida, saying that the state's refusal to follow the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Hall versus Florida, which said that the way in which they were judging intellectual disability was unconstitutional. The Florida court won't apply that retroactively, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, well, we're not going to hear that case either. So there is a growing line of cases in which, without issuing any opinions on the merits, the United States Supreme Court is signaling that it is not going to enforce the Atkins prohibition against executing individuals with intellectual disability.
How do we hold the court accountable to this? I mean, what's the answer? How do we get them to actually pay attention to these facts in these cases if they weren't even here?
Well, if it doesn't happen through the legal process, and that clearly, clearly this court is not enforcing the constitutional guarantee, then it has to be done through the political process. One way is to change the composition of the court, which is impossible when they have life tenure. And so the way to carry that out is would be President Biden's proposal for a constitutional amendment, changing the way in which justices, how long justices can stay on the court. The only other thing is to apply political pressure to try to persuade the court to act otherwise. But the whole purpose of the way we set up our judicial process is to try to insulate judges from political pressure. We have a legal system that makes the judges the final arbiters of the law, and makes it very, very difficult to remove those judges who won't follow the law. The only legal mechanism for that is impeachment. And of course, we know that impeachment is an impossibility in such a politically divisive atmosphere where you have two different parties controlling each house, and each of the parties acting in a partisan manner as opposed to trying to act in the public interest.
Wow. Well, thank you, Rob. I hope we can stick around for a few minutes because we'd like to hear your thoughts, as well as Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood's thoughts about the news today with a recommendation for clemency in Oklahoma for Emmanuel Littlejohn. But first, I want to go to Miranda Miranda Uribe, I think is how we say her last name, in Huntsville. Miranda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Here.
Great, thank you. Can you turn your camera sideways and let's see what happens when we do that? Perfect. You get a much better view that way. We're grateful that you're there in Huntsville. Tell us what's happening and thanks for being there.
Yeah, of course. It's not too many people here today like there usually is, but we're here. We have a few people with I think the Texas prison radio. So that's awesome, but it is a little sad and it's hard to be here today, but I'm glad I was able to make it out here.
Well, I know of some people who had to turn around because there's some massive accident that has gummed up all the highways on the way from certain directions. So that's probably why the Houston crowd isn't there yet, and maybe they'll get there soon. But for those who are watching this for the first time, just over Miranda's left shoulder, you can see the Walls unit, the Huntsville unit of the Texas Department of Corrections, and right where the front door, well, normally there was a fire here a few months ago, and that has shifted the way they do things a little bit. But normally, one of the things about Texas executions is that you can actually tell when things have happened because you see the witnesses cross the street. That's right there over Miranda's shoulder, and they go into the front door of the prison. And then 20 or 30 or 40 minutes later, they'd come back out, and that's how we know that the execution has taken place. They've shifted that a bit because of the fire, or who knows what, but now they've been recently, in the recent executions, they've been getting into vans and all that. But in any case, that's what we're seeing here. And normally there are, as Miranda was saying, a number of other protesters there. Shavas Watson was on his way. He's one of the people that turned around, but we might hear from him in a little bit. Miranda, thank you for being there, and thank everybody else that you see for being there from Death Penalty Action. And if you can, I don't know how long you can stay, but if you can, we'll come back to you when we get a little bit closer to the time of the execution.
Okay, sounds good.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see here. So with that, we've got we're recording a little bit on this end too. Emmanuel Littlejohn, let's talk about that just for a few minutes, because we do have, we want to stay focused on the execution of tonight, but it's big news. And we're grateful to everybody that has taken action, calling the Oklahoma Board of Pardons and Paroles, talking to other people about this case and the fact that Emmanuel Littlejohn didn't kill anyone. All the witnesses, well, some of the witnesses say that it was the taller person who was robbing the store that fired the shot that resulted in death. And in any case, what we know is in the clemency hearing, and hopefully we'll hear from Jeff in a few minutes about this, in the clemency hearing today, they actually did reference the unusually high amount of correspondence received, postal mail. We had a lot of people write postal mail, emails, and the last couple of days, thousands of people have been making phone calls, and they've actually shifted to, if you're calling to comment on a case, press here, and they go into a voicemail instead of talking to an actual person. So we've shifted things a little bit, and a lot of people were not expecting a clemency recommendation, and we got one today, which means that we get to turn up the juice even more in Oklahoma for the next 7 weeks, or until Governor Stitt maybe will actually follow the recommendation of his Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board. So we'll see what happens. But Rob, do you have any thoughts on this case? And hopefully Jeff will be able to come back in a moment and share with us his experience there as well.
Yeah, I have a number of thoughts on this. One of the obviously one of the key issues here is that Mr. Littlejohn most likely didn't kill anybody, and the death penalty, theoretically, assuming that you believe that it is ever permissible, has only two conceivable justifications. One is deterrent, and the other is retribution. And the retribution is that you're supposed to reserve the death penalty for the worst of the worst cases and the worst of the worst offenders. Mr. Littlejohn, at most, is liable for the killing in this case through a felony murder rule, a rule that attributes to him liability for the actions of somebody else. And that's always questionable when it comes to the worst of the worst, because Mr. Littlejohn, with the evidence viewed most favorably to the state, isn't even the worst of the worst in this case. And when it comes to the justification for deterrence, he didn't intend that anybody be killed. He didn't think that anybody was going to get killed. How can the death penalty be a deterrent for somebody who doesn't kill and doesn't intend and doesn't think that a killing is going to take place? So there's no legitimate penological justification, even if you believe in capital punishment, for applying it to Mr. Littlejohn or others who did not kill and did not have the intent to kill. So that's my first observation. the second thing is that there is a study committee that is going to be taking a look in the Oklahoma legislature into the entire issue of the death penalty for felony murder. So that's something that that we might see legislative action on. The question is going to be whether there's legislative action that will take place before this execution is scheduled to go forward. The other question is, should Governor Stitt, even if he doesn't accept the recommendation for commutation, should he issue a reprieve to give the legislature time to act? So those are some other things. Now, Governor Stitt has not been a friend to clemency recommendations. There have been several recommendations for commutations that he has rejected. But again, this is a very strong case. Why should you kill someone who didn't kill, even if you should ever kill someone at all? And so any appeals to Governor Stitt should certainly emphasize the fact that this is very atypical, and that even if you support the death penalty in cases where there's clear evidence that somebody is the killer, this is certainly not that case.
Thank you for that, Rob. Jeff had to step away, I guess, so he's driving in, but he'll be back in a few minutes. Before we shift away from Emmanuel and Littlejohn, I did want to mention that we also there was a question that came in the Q&A about Marcellus
Marcellus Williams.
The case is coming up for. Yes, thank you. Marcellus Williams in Missouri, August 21st. He's got an evidentiary hearing. We're looking at the case of Robbie Robertson in Oklahoma. We could talk for an hour about each of those cases. We're not going to tonight. And hopefully Jeff will come back, because Jeff is Emmanuel Littlejohn's spiritual advisor and was with him and was actually, I will share with you, feeling very unsure about what was going to happen. But what shifted here and what we did in this case is make sure that there was a torrent of ongoing communication and pressure. And I've begun to hear from folks in Oklahoma, the ACLU and others who are getting on board in this case because it's an opportunity to stop the execution. You're going to be hearing more from us. Jeff has come back. So Jeff, welcome. And if you want to share some observations from how's Emmanuel feeling? What did you see today at the clemency hearing? And then we'll be shifting away shortly after that to get back to the execution that's in half an hour. So, and we'll be able to hear more from Jeff later on tonight too. So Jeff?
Yeah, I think just really quick, it was an incredibly, almost felt like miraculous moment. We worked hard, Emmanuel and I, when we first got together a couple years ago, talking about his case, and you know, it's shocking. I mean, on a lot of levels. But it's sort of like Cornel West. He talks about hope on a tightrope. And I think that no matter the difficulties and struggles of keeping hope, that we have done our best to stay on that tightrope. And today, I mean, it was very clear that the Pardon and Parole Board listened to our arguments. I believe that in terms of outside pressure, I mean, we had the billboards, we had the letter campaign, it was all in the media. I mean, there was
your camera a little bit.
There was a lot of external pressure too, I mean, from us. And so I think that this is a great example of what happens when people of goodwill come together for a righteous cause and work together. You know, I think that, we saw that today. I'm excited for Emmanuel. I know that he's excited. We have a tough road ahead in terms of, convincing Governor Stitt that Emmanuel deserves to be saved. But at the same time, as I talked about hope on a tightrope, we're staying on that tightrope, and we're going to keep the hope, and we're going to keep pushing.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, Jeff, for your leadership there and for being there for Emmanuel, and for everything that's happened to get us to this point. We got 7 weeks now to turn on the fire and turn up the juice and all the things. We got to hope and pray for the best and work for the best. But we, of course, are prepared for the worst. I'm going to just go quickly.
Abe, can I jump in for a second?
Of course, go ahead.
I think it's important to note there's been some very good lawyering in this case for Mr. Littlejohn, and the outcome in the Board of Pardons is even more remarkable. It was a 3-2 vote, but it was even more remarkable because the 2 members of the Board of Pardons who were considered to be pro-defense, open to granting clemency, were essentially forced off the board, and they were replaced by new members who were not considered to be pro-defendant. So the fact that with an even more pro-prosecution board, they reached a recommendation for clemency, I think that's remarkable.
It is remarkable. And thank you for making sure to add that. Jeff had also mentioned that earlier, that, and here's the important thing, especially for certain folks in Oklahoma to recognize, is that the lawyers in this case have been working with Jeff, and he was included in the Clemency video that was presented. And we are grateful for all the work that they did. Everything that the public pressure that we all have created together is on top of the outstanding presentation that was made this morning by Emmanuel's legal team. So that's all exactly true. And now they get to figure out how to present this to the governor in a way that he could hear it. And we get to make sure that he knows that the whole world wants him to listen. And the way we do that is by going to Death Penalty Action and just scrolling down right to the top under Future Campaigns. You click on Fight to Save Emmanuel Littlejohn, and that's where you get the petition, where if you've already signed, thank you very much. But what we need you to do now is get other people loading this up. This needs to be huge. And also here are the tools, including this video that we made with support from one of our major donors, David Dodge, who may be watching this or may be on a plane. He actually flew in to be a part of this, but you can watch this video. We've shown it before. We're going to leave it to you to watch tonight. Maybe, Allie, you could put a link to this petition in the chat. I also want to note that we have, for another 7 weeks, this billboard up in 10 different billboards. This was shown, actually, and again, they noted the high level of communication from the public at the clemency hearing. They even showed a picture of this billboard and talked about our campaign during the clemency hearing. This billboard is up on 10 different billboards in the Oklahoma City area. It flashes among other advertisements, but this message is up for some period of time, over, 1,350 times each day in the Oklahoma City area, to draw people to Death Penalty Action to find that video where they can watch and choose for themselves if it makes sense to kill this guy. So with that, that's where we go to take that. We need to spread that all around. And with that, thank you. We're going to shift gears and back to Arthur Burton. Jeff, go ahead.
I was going to quickly add that I think one of the things that was particularly poignant about this situation, this case, is I think it shows us that the lawyers can't do it alone. And we have a responsibility as activists to stand there with them. And, I think today what I saw was a great presentation, but a presentation that was in a lot of ways similar to a lot of other presentations that I've seen at clemency hearings. And I think what made the difference here is 2 groups of people, lawyers, activists, working together. And I think it presented something different to this board that obviously had an effect on them. And I think it's really powerful that, it's a powerful example of what we're capable
of. Thank you, Jeff. Brandon, are you able to give us a little translation here? Let's see here. We'll see if we can't get shift back to Arthur Burton now as we're approaching execution time in Texas. So I want to introduce Brandon Pfeiffer, our troubadour here on many of these vigils. Welcome and thank you for being with us, Brandon.
There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. No, there ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, gonna rise out of the ground. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. We'll go down yonder, Gabriel, put your foot on land and sea, but don't you blow your trumpet until you hear from me. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. No, there ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Well, I look way over yonder, I see people dressed in white. I know it was God's people, 'cause I seen them doing right. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. 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 Well, I looked across that road and I seen an honest man. I looked across that road and I seen an honest man. Well, I looked across that road, I seen an honest man. He was holding a sign. No more killing in this land. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. 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 Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down.
Thank you, Brandon. So Miranda's there holding on with the photo of what's happening out of prison. Thank you, Miranda. And let's add Julie Rinker here. Julie is one of our leaders in Texas who's been doing a lot of being at the prison, and she can no longer do that because Julie's no longer in Texas, but she's with us tonight. Julie, please share your thoughts about this situation that we're in.
Thanks for the opportunity, Abe. I was interacting a little bit with the chat, and I saw a question from another Julie asking, what can we do to be involved outside of signing petitions? And for those of you who aren't able to show up at the vigil, and that's a question I've been chewing on for a few weeks and months as I've been preparing to move to Los Angeles. I'm actually at a special educator conference right now. I'm a teacher in addition to being a death penalty activist. So I keep chewing on this question as well. There are ways for us all to take part in this work as we find to be creative to do so. I appreciate that quote you shared, Dr. Reverend Jeff Hood, about hope being a tightrope from Cornell West. And I think that's an important element to keep in mind as we do this work. since I was not driving to Huntsville tonight, I had a little bit more time to look up this case of Arthur Burton, and found a lot of information on publications that his daughter has put out. So when Nancy Adleman was killed, she had gone out for a run at around 7 p.m. that night. She left her husband, I assume, with her 3 children. And as a woman who is a runner and also a mother, I wonder how this case affected people at the time. The district attorney, Josh Bryce, mentioned that this case was a nightmare for women who run alone or women who walk to their cars alone at night. And I think that's where some broader support for the death penalty comes from, just this fear and this thought about we're more safe if these people are no longer a part of the broader society. I receive a lot of questions as I speak about the death penalty with my friends, particularly people who support the death penalty for those who are guilty. And I think the message that I want to share, and that I would encourage everybody here to share, is just that the death penalty doesn't show any of society that what Arthur Burton did was wrong, and it doesn't make society safer. One item I just want to share from Sarah Adleman, who is Nancy Adleman's daughter. She says that her father, who's going to be in attendance at tonight's execution, has just completely changed. He's turned into kind of a shell of who he was. And we know, from a Christian standpoint, I'm also a Christian, we know that if you hold on to the pain and you take revenge on that pain of what wrong was committed against you, it doesn't lead to healing. So just to share a few notes about what Sarah Adleman, or maybe she's changed her name, but what Sarah, the daughter of Nancy Adleman, will be doing tonight. She will be participating in a gratitude and forgiveness ceremony tonight at a local river in Colorado where she lives. And she's also participating in a fire ceremony. So she's actively looking for ways to increase her own forgiveness. And I think that's a lot more effective way to work through this, although I understand not all victim family members can take that spot, that position. But I would just say that the efforts that we bring to support death penalty action provide relief to the family members like Dr. Sharon Risher, or Reverend Sharon Risher rather, who are working to speak out against this. So I'm grateful for everybody who's here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here to learn more about this case, because the death penalty is wrong in so many ways. We can talk about that for a long time. If now's an okay time to share a verse, this is something that I came across as I was visiting Holocaust memorials in Poland with the SMU Human Rights Program. It's a verse from Job 16:18. It says, "Earth, do not cover my blood. Let there be no resting place for our outcries." So for all of those of you who are here as activists, I just encourage you to find the information and the connections to help you become increasingly mobilized in your effort to educate your community about what is actually happening here. And please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Death Penalty Action directly to find out more ways that you can support this work. So thank you for time to speak tonight, Abe.
Of course, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Ali to take over managing this for a few moments and call on others on the panel to lead us in prayer as we get towards the execution. And Ali, if it's whatever you can share from Arthur now or else later, that'd be great. I'll be back in just a minute or two. I have to actually send an affidavit in because we have filed a lawsuit claiming some free speech violations around the protest areas here in Utah, and a judge is actually asking for some more information. So who knows what's going to happen with this, but I'll be back in just a few minutes.
Sure, no problem. So I do have some stuff from Arthur, but I want to wait to share that until a little bit later. He wanted it to be shared when he was no longer alive. So I'll be sharing that in a little bit. But we're starting to get close to the time. So I think I'm gonna share Janet Walsh, who's normally with us from the United Kingdom. She couldn't be with us tonight, so she did send in a prayer. So I'm going to go ahead and read that for Janet. She says, "My name is Janet Walsh. I'm a Christian believer. I live near Manchester in the United Kingdom. The last executions in the United Kingdom were carried out in August of 1964, exactly 60 years ago. I'm standing with you here as you campaign to abolish the death penalty in Texas and try to save the lives of those condemned to death, and especially today for Arthur Burton. In Psalm 143, it says, 'Let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love, for in you I trust.' Thank you, O God, for your steadfast love that enables us to put our trust in you. I pray for Arthur Burton that he heard this morning about your steadfast love for him. Help him to put his trust in you, O Jesus." In the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, it says that if someone has done a wicked thing but truly repents, then it is just and right that they should live and not die, that none of what he has done will be remembered, because the sovereign Lord does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked, but is pleased when they turn away from their wickedness. I understand that Arthur Burton is truly repentant of the terrible thing that he did, and his execution goes ahead this evening. I pray, and if his execution goes ahead this evening, I pray, O Jesus, that you will take him into your arms to spend eternity with you. Transform the heart of Governor Abbott, O God, I pray. Turn his heart of stone into one of compassion for those who have been condemned to death in Texas. I pray that one day soon, executions in Texas will be no more. Put your arms of comfort around Arthur's friends and family. Oh, Jesus, I pray. Thank you for all who have been campaigning for Arthur. Give them the strength to carry on. I offer up all of these prayers in the mighty and precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen. And I just wanted to touch on something that Janet had mentioned in her prayer, but Arthur is extremely remorseful for what he did. He expressed that already to the victim's family, and up until today, his very last day, he is still expressing his remorse for what he did. Let's see who else is on with us. Brandon, do you have another song that you can bring us here?
I do. Walk with me, Lord, walk with me. Walk with me, Lord, walk with me. While I'm on this journey, I need you, Lord, to walk with me. Be my friend, Lord, be my friend. Be my friend, Lord, be my friend. I need you, Lord, to be my friend. Won't you walk with me, Lord, walk with me. Won't you walk with me, Lord, walk with me. Here I am on this dark journey. Please, Lord, won't you walk with me. Don't leave me, Lord, don't leave me. Don't leave me alone, Lord, no, don't leave me. Here I am, I sing as loud as I can. Here I am, Lord, don't leave me. Here I am, Lord, don't leave me. I need you to, Lord, walk with me. Please won't you walk with me, Lord, walk with me. Here I am, I don't know where this leads. Oh Lord, won't you walk with me and be my friend, Lord, be my friend. Be my friend till the very end. See, I can't see where this road ends. Be my friend, Lord, be my friend. Won't you walk with me, Lord, walk with me. Please won't you walk with me, Lord, walk with me. See, I am on this journey. Oh Lord, won't you walk with me. Don't leave me, God, don't leave me. Please don't leave me alone, don't leave me. I need you when I can no longer see. Oh Lord, won't you walk with me? Oh my God, won't you walk with me? Oh Lord, won't you walk with me? Walk with me. Won't you walk with me? Won't you walk with me? Won't you walk with me?
Thank you, Brandon. I know Abe just popped back in, but I wanted to go to Jeff. I had already talked to him about coming on next and just centering us. We're just a couple minutes away from the scheduled execution time, and then we'll check in with the prison here in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not a little bit better set up for the vigil tonight. I am exhausted. You know, I've spent the day fighting for Emmanuel Littlejohn, working with attorneys and all sorts of people who, you know, have a stake or stakeholders in this. And, you know, there's a lot of wonderful people out here trying to do good work and trying to make change and to save lives. You know, I think when we reach this place of execution, there's a lot of people who feel like they failed. There's a lot of people who feel like they didn't do enough or didn't say enough. I know that feeling all too well. But I want everybody on this call to know, and lawyers and investigators and all the people out there to know that you are enough. You are enough. I think sometimes we forget that. And I think my message to Arthur tonight, if I could speak to him, if I could touch him, would be that you are enough. You matter. Your life matters. Your hopes matter. Your dreams matter. You are enough. I happen to believe that death does not separate us from each other. Einstein tells us that matter is neither created nor destroyed. So I believe that the love that is in Arthur, the hope, the joy, the peace, these forms of energy are neither created nor destroyed. So in the spirit of neither creation nor destruction, let us approach this execution as simply a moment in time. A moment in time that is neither about creation or destruction, but is about celebrating life and about using our lives to save the lives of others. Amen.
Miranda, thank you, Jeff. Miranda, is there any movement there at the prison?
A little bit ago, we saw people walk across the street right here to go in, but we're not sure who they were. They looked pretty dressed up, and we haven't seen the vans come to pick up the witnesses. So we aren't too sure. Nothing's really been happening, but there's more people that showed up today. So,
Well, maybe they're back to just walking across the street. I hope not, but it is about that time. So thank you for your continued presence there. Allie?
Yeah, just real quick, we had a question from somebody on Twitter and it's not letting me respond to them, so I just wanted to say the answer out loud. Somebody was just asking if there were any appeals left for Arthur. He just tuned in. No, there's no appeals yet left. He's been denied in all the courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court. So I just wanted to say that real quick for those just tuning in.
Thank you for that update. Wanted to see if any of our other Texas allies are present. Shavas, are you ready to share some thoughts? And then perhaps we'll begin to move to Cantor Zusman's prayer and others. And Brandon will be looking to you for your musical rendition of the 23rd Psalm after we hear from Cantor Zusman. Miranda, is there anybody for any words from other folks that are there that are also watching with you? She may have tuned out a bit from this, so it is 6 o'clock. Let's begin our prayers and with Cantor Zusman's rendition of the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew. Ali, are we ready with that?
Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you. Cantor Michael Zusman with the thousands of members of L'chaim, Jews Against the Death Penalty and Death Penalty Action. If you're watching this video, it means that there's about to be another state-sponsored murder. I'm here, about to move and immigrate to Canada, a land that does not put to death its prisoners against their will. As I do so, I'm standing at the National Institutes of Health Clinical Center, a sacred space here. This is a place where the government strives to do everything it can to save lives, not to put them to death. At this time, we ask you to turn your attention after the condemned individual who's being led to the slaughter in the valley of the shadow of death, inhumanely. I'll be chanting the words of the 23rd Psalm, which reflect that sentiment in the original Hebrew. And I ask you, no matter your tradition or life stance, whether secular, spiritual, religious, or what have you, to turn your energy to this condemned individual now. May the killings end.
Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, Bihinot deshe yarbitzeni, Al mei menuchot yenach aleini. Nafshi yeshovev, Nafshi yeshovev, Yanacheni v'magelei tzedek, Leman Shemo, Gam ki elech begeitz al mavet, Lo irara, ki ata yimadi, shivtecha umishantecha, shivtecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Neged tzoderai, Di shanta vashemen roshi, Di shanta vashemen roshi, Di shanta vashemen roshi, kosi revaya, ach tov v'chesed, yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai, V'shavti b'beit Adonai.
It's like we lost the video there. Cut off. Brandon, are you ready?
You lost the video? It was still playing on my end.
It looks, yeah, it's playing, but it wasn't shared. Let's go with the 23rd Psalm from Brandon Pfeiffer.
Oh, the Lord is my shepherd. What more could I want? Well, he lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. What more could I want? And yea, though I walk through this valley of evil, I have no fear, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they bring me comfort and peace. Comfort and peace. You prepare your table before me, before my enemies. You've anointed my head and my cup overflows. And surely your goodness and mercy will follow me. Surely your goodness and mercy do follow me. Surely your goodness, your mercy do follow me all the long days of all the days of my long life. Oh, the Lord is my shepherd. What more could I want? What more could I want? I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha in myself, I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Taking refuge in the Dharma in myself, I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha in myself, I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities, to embrace all beings and support their transformation.
I wanted to share a couple of poems that Arthur's pen pal had sent. Arthur is a very private person, as you saw my note in the chat. He liked to keep his circle small, and he didn't want to include a bunch of new people in his circle. And so I felt compelled to write a short note to him a couple of weeks ago, just letting him know that there were those of us out here thinking about him. And then I wrote another one because he's close friends with my friend Pete Russell on Texas's death row. And to my surprise, Arthur wrote back. It was a very brief message, but he was just thanking me for the support. And so in addition to keeping Arthur and his close pen pal in your hearts tonight, I would also ask that you keep Pete Russell in your heart. I know it'll be a really tough night for Pete. And Pete and I have talked about these moments many times before, and he's told me that after so many executions, you kind of just get numb to everything. But I think this is a bit of a different situation since him and Arthur were so close, and it's not just anybody else. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I have a couple poems. They're very short, and I can his pen pal made really nice pictures out of them, so I'll put them in the chat in a moment. But the first one says, "Into the night, angel eyes stare. God is watching all souls, beware. The harvest is upon us, a reaping is at hand. The heavens are preparing for the judgment of man." The next one is just a line. It says, "Looking up at the sky, oceans of water sailing by warm rays of light, touch my face. I'm traveling to a special place." And then he had a bunch, but I just picked a couple. And the next one is, "Meet you at the crossroads in the deepness of your dreams. I'll follow your lead, whichever way you take. We'll build a world of dreams, never worrying about mistake. A world of dreams we'll build. This will be our place." And the last one, hold on. The last one is called "False Reality." "All my life I hide behind fear. I was a hostage to something that was not there. I built my foundation on unstable ground. I wasn't surprised when it all came crashing down. This hell I forged with my own two hands, an invisible prison inside of man, trapped by my own thoughts in an inescapable cell, dying a little each day in my man-made hell." I'll put these in the chat. And then there's also just a picture that let me see if I can find it real quick. I just wanted to share. His pen pal had sent this picture that he drew. So I can also put this in the chat, but I just wanted to share that briefly.
That's beautiful. Can you leave that up for a moment?
Sure.
This is Arthur drew this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is this the only piece of his that you have, or is there more?
This is all that I have. I think he drew more, but this is just what was shared with me.
Well, intellectually disabled or not, this is some powerful art.
Mm-hmm.
And shows some real talent. Talent that's being killed right now.
Okay, let me put the poems in the chat if anybody wants to see them. I think his pen pal or somebody actually made them really nice. So
Brandon, I think that's a good idea. We haven't heard that song in a while, and it's certainly applicable right now.
Southern trees bear a strange fruit. Blood on the leaves and blood at the roots. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South. The bulging eyes and a twisted mouth. The scent of magnolia, so sweet and fresh, mixed with the sudden smell of burning flesh. You can tell yourself that was a different time. You can tell your children you think it's time to leave the past behind. So quiet in the courthouse, but in the church you sing all love and forgiveness and a grace so amazing. Strange fruit in the orchard, strange fruit hanging in the air. Strange fruit in the market, in the public square. Strange fruit in the orchard, strange fruit in the public square. Strange fruit in the chamber, strange fruit in the electric chair. Here's another fruit for the crows to pluck. Here's another fruit for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck. For the sun to ride, for the tree to drop. Here is a strange and bitter crop. Strange fruit, strange fruit.
Thank you, Brandon. At this point, we're, especially if you're just joining us, you know that we're 25 minutes past the hour. And Miranda, has there been any movement coming from inside the prison?
Nothing since the last time I updated you guys. There was someone who went in a little later, but we aren't sure who it was and why they were going in. So we're
Of course
still waiting.
We're grateful for your providing and bringing everybody from all over the world really to the space where the killing is happening tonight. So thank you, and let us know when you see folks come out. And Shivas, are you ready to bring us some thoughts?
Hey, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. As you may know, I'm here in Texas. So I mourn with those who send peace to Arthur and don't forget the victim. I unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. The traffic got in the way, and it's all good. It's all good. I'm there in spirit. And so it's really peace to see the contributions this evening, and the honoring of what we're fighting for. That's really all I have, Abe. I'm tired of second chances not being provided.
Thank you for being there with us from Texas and for trying to get to Huntsville. You were one of those who got stuck up in the traffic and turned around. So we're grateful for you.
Yeah, appreciate the space, man. Appreciate the space.
Of course. So this is the space where we get to wait to hear and see what has happened if when the execution is completed. There's you want to note some of the things that are happening in the chat, including we've got some folks that are with us tonight who are pen pals with Arthur and are grateful for all of us being with us, they've declined the opportunity to join us on the panel and share a bit about their experience with Arthur. So we are simply standing and holding space and maintaining our presence and our prayer as we wait for word that the execution has been carried out. Mira has just put in Arthur, this is Arthur's pen pal. I'm with you and the light is close to you. And I'm reminded in that from our vigil with Richard Rojam, when he was executed, he was a Buddhist, and we had with us Gina Grimm, who was a Buddhist practitioner and had been in touch with Richard and led us through, shared with us a Buddhist chant about that is intended for people on their deathbed and moving to their death. And Mary, your comment there that just reminded me, of that chant to go to the light, look for the light, go to the light, look for the light. And this, as we've heard in some of these chants, this repeated, I'm not even sure what the right word is, but that's the feeling that I have now as we, stand with it. And I'm also noting, and Randy, if you want to add something, or Charles here, there's no family here. There's no, Arthur's a very private person, and so too apparently is his family. I'm not sure, maybe that we just don't know, because often they're in a hospitality house situation that's near the prison. So we don't know what's happening there. But with us are some folks who are the brothers of people who faced execution, or Charles Keith is here, Impacted Communities Liaison for Death Penalty Action, who your brother was at one point 13 days from execution.
Charles Keith here, Impacted Communities Liaison for Death Penalty Action. I'm so happy that my brother's execution did not happen. It was so long ago. I hadn't even got involved with other people's executions, or the taking of lives. And I've seen the full scope of the killing. And it hurts me to know that other people did not get the chance that my brother got. And it hurts. My brother got a second chance, and I heard Shabazz saying, and that's what made me come and say something, because I wasn't going to say anything. But I think this business of killing people and not giving second chances or giving them a chance to live, even if you give them life without parole, it allows the children to grow up somewhat knowing their folks, their family, or something. I mean, you have to look at what incarceration already does to a family. So, when you're taking that person's life, are you taking that person's life for everybody? Or are you taking that person's life for that particular family? Because it seems like that's all you interview when these things happen. You don't interview or talk to anybody outside the family. So, it makes me feel like the state is taking these lives for families, destroying families. And again, like I said, my brother was taken off death row in 2010 by then Governor Ted Strickland. My hat's off to Ted Strickland in Ohio for doing that. And I don't understand why other states can't see what incarceration is already doing to someone. So death is not necessary. It's just so hard talking to educated Christian religious people about executions and the takings of life. It's just unbelievable.
Hi, folks. Thank you. My name is Randy Gardner. I'm here in Utah at the getting ready to go to the execution vigil of Tabarone Honey here in Utah. Last execution I went to here in Utah was my brother Ronnie Lee Gardner's execution on June 18th, 2014. Here's his ashes right here. I carry around where I go. So, and that was actually an execution by firing squad. It was the last one in Utah. It was the last one in the United States. And here to tell you that we don't want no executions. We don't care if they're firing squad, electric chair, lethal injection. You know, there is no humane way to execute anybody. We think life without parole is a much better option. People have a chance for redemption. It actually boils down to really a moral issue, like thou shalt not kill, or, you know, I always say, why do we kill people who kill people? It shows killing and wrong. And then we have an eye for an eye makes the world go blind, you know, stuff like that. It makes so much sense to me, and it's common sense, and I don't get it. You know, we all get it as abolitionists, and there's a lot of people that get it, but getting people involved in this movement, you know, it's a tough thing. People don't like to come out and talk about the death penalty. You know, we don't like talking about the death penalty. We're compelled to do it. You know, I mean, I honestly feel better when I do it than when I don't. It's a club that no one really wants to belong to, and we stand for justice and human rights, and execution is not the solution.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Charles.
The rich don't get it. 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 The rich don't get it.
Hear Charles chanting, "The rich don't get it." And that's one thing we know is true over and over again. Allie, go ahead.
Yeah, I've just been informed that apparently Arthur and his friend worked on a children's book together, and Arthur has illustrated the children's book. It's called Sea Witch and the Scorpion. It's supposed to come out in December, so I just wanted to share that. I think that's pretty cool, and yeah, I think it's wonderful that his work will be, I guess, I don't think inscribed is the right word, but like somewhere for people to look back on years later.
That's amazing. And I want to echo what Alyssa Jane says, what a beautiful way for Arthur to live on. And Randy, there's a comment here for you from Lydia, just saying thank you so much for being here to honor your brother's memory. And grief like this is so unimaginable, and to use that pain to work towards preventing it for others is such strength. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I don't need a slap on the back, but stuff like this and comments, it helps. You know, everything helps, and it's a hard thing to do. You know, it's bottom line. And when you're personally involved in this type of stuff, it affects you in so many different ways. You know, it's affected my whole life the last 14 years, and I just appreciate your comments and prayers.
Thank you. And we know that this is true. We've been trying here in Utah to connect with the families involved here, and it's just, you know, finally there was an Associated Press article today that focused on Tabaron's daughter, and still haven't made that connection, but that's, you know, maybe we'll get to meet her this evening and provide some level of comfort to her. It's a difficult space to be in. Brandon, maybe this is a space for another message from you. Brandon may have stepped out of the room. You know, this is Miranda, any movement there in Huntsville?
No, yet, but there seems to be a guard who keeps sticking his head out of the front door, so I'm not too sure if that means anything or not.
Yes. Well, often the last time I think I was there, we saw the head chaplain for the TDCJ walk out and just walked right down the sidewalk there and jumped into his car, which was parked around the corner from where you're standing, and that's how we knew. So Brandon Pfeiffer is back, and we will hear another song.
When I go, oh, don't cry for me, 'cause in my Father's arms I'll be. Oh, the wounds this world left on my soul will all be healed and I'll be whole. The sun and moon will be replaced with the light of Jesus' face. I will not be ashamed, for my Savior knows my name. It don't matter where you bury me, I'll be home and I'll be free. It don't matter anywhere I lay, all my tears be washed away. Gold and silver blind the eye, temporary riches lie. Come and eat from heaven's store, come and drink and thirst no more. So weep not for me, my friend, when my time blows. It does not end, for my life belongs to Him, who will raise the dead again. So it don't matter where you bury me, I'll be home and I'll be free. It don't matter anywhere I lay, all my tears be washed away. See, it don't matter where you bury me, I'll be home and I'll be free. It don't matter anywhere I lay, all my tears be washed away, be washed away. washed away. Be washed away.
Sorry, I'm just chatting with his pen pal and friend of his pen pal. As this is going on, that's why I keep coming on with little blips of information. But I just wanted to lift up Garcia White, who is also scheduled for execution in Texas. I think the 1st of October. He was good friends with Arthur as well. And because he's awaiting execution, Garcia White is also on death watch right now. So that's an even it's even worse to be on death watch than it is to be just in a normal death row cell. So I just wanted to lift up Garcia White too tonight. And I'll put his petition in the chat.
No, thank you, Allie. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, everybody who exited asked if Brandon was live or recorded. And tonight we are pleased and honored to have Brandon live with us, playing what the spirit, as the spirit moves, the songs that we're hearing. He's a man with a tremendous repertoire, and we're grateful that he chooses to be in this space with us. And we'll hear more from him in a little while. So if there is any word yet, we will, or as there is word, we'll hear from it. But I want to take a moment just to recognize one of the folks that we've gotten to know and work with here in Utah, who has been, leading us and bringing the community together, and that is Michelle Beasley. So Michelle, if you don't mind turn on your camera and joining us for a moment, just to we want to lift you up as a person who's never done this before, had to figure out, who to call, what to do. We've been on the death penalty action list for a while and responded when I sent an email out to our Utah list to say, is anybody doing anything? Does anybody want to do anything? And Michelle stepped up. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. I am very grateful to all of Death Penalty Action. I know it's definitely a group effort. The faces that I have seen and have worked with directly, Abe, Charles, Suzanne, and of course Randy. I've gotten to know them over the last 10 to 12 days. It started when Tabaron Honey's request for life in prison was denied. And they said, no, we're going to move forward with the execution. And Utah is well known for really good executions. That's pretty much how they vote and what's their choice. So it's a difficult argument here. But we have been very, very, very blessed. I feel like we've been very, I don't know what other word to use. We started with nothing. We tried to pick up a conversation that was dormant, what it seemed like. If there was a conversation about eliminating the death penalty, it didn't seem to be very active. So when we called upon individuals and got silence, we just started with what we had. And I started with connections at my parish, and then it moved from my parish to the diocese. And so then Bishop Solis, the Catholic bishop for the Salt Lake Diocese of Salt Lake City, and we're a mission parish, so one diocese covers the entire state. He put a word he put an article in the Intermountain Catholic, a local newspaper, and said that he supports removing the death penalty. It's against our faith. And we were able to gather lots of people. Bells tolled to, we're tolling today. We had a speaking engagement on Sunday at my parish, and we thought we'd only have 10 people, and we ended up with maybe 40 people. And then we had a press conference today. So things are really moving. We've got a lot of visibility, a lot of support, a lot of local support that we didn't have before. And even though last minute they tried to request, his attorneys tried to request the 60-day delay, and the Governor Cox still said no. So we're going to be gathering here in a few hours at the state correctional facility for a very similar vigil. And there will probably, I hope we have a good group of people there. I feel badly for Tabaron Honey's daughter, who has been she's been building a relationship with her father over the last few years. And so it's kind of an odd case in where Tabaron is her father, and he killed her grandmother. He stabbed her to death. And so she's fighting with she's got her grandmother's side of the family who wants him dead. And then she's kind of on her own. She's waffling. But so she's kind of torn between missing her father, knowing that he's going to be dying. And then she's got cousins and people that want him dead. So please keep her in your prayers. I think Tressa, her name is Tressa. I think she's really struggling. Tabaron has just asked that she find peace. He prays that she find peace after today. So that's kind of where we stand. I look forward to, I don't know that I look forward to it, but I know that the journey is going to continue, and conversations are starting, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it, because I really do think that people are starting to awaken and think about the issue where they didn't before. It's been, like we said, it's been 14 years since there's been an execution in Utah. So it's time to wake people up a bit. And I think we've made some really good strides this week. Thank you, Death Penalty Action. You guys have been amazing, and I couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you for those kind words and for filling us in, Michelle. It's especially difficult for people that are, just jumping in for the first time to not knowing what this is going to be and not directly connected, but just thinking something has to be done. And people have asked regularly, what do I do? What can I do? What, and there's always it's a ladder of engagement, everywhere from just signing petitions and not just signing, but adding your name to the petition, which we carry in, as we did today, the governor's office in Utah. And yesterday we sent them into the parole board in Oklahoma City and the governor's office in Texas. It's a vehicle through which we can convey our messages, whether it's 1,000 signatures or 10,000 signatures or 1,000,000 signatures. Allie, I see you, and I want to make sure you can bring us up to date with what's happening. And it looks like there might be some movement also in Huntsville. Allie?
So I've been checking Twitter and the news, and I still haven't seen a time of death. So I know some people were starting to question on the restream and on Twitter if the execution was over. I have not seen confirmation yet, but as Abe said, there might be some movement in Huntsville. Real quick though, we had Sandra Baker ask in the Q&A, what's the difference with being on death watch? So in most states, death watch, you're put on death watch. In Texas, it's as soon as you get an execution date, In some states, it's 21 days out, 10 days out. It kind of differs in every state, but essentially, it is a separate area of cells where people preparing for execution are housed. Only people preparing for execution are housed. And in many cases, there's enhanced security. In some states, the lights are on 24/7. They have to make note of every activity that the individual engages with or engages in every 5 or 10 minutes, and they keep a sheet recording everything. Essentially, it is a way for them to prepare or to prevent individuals preparing for execution from committing suicide before the state can kill them. I think in Texas, they're still able to have most of their property while they're on death watch, but in many states, all their property is taken away and already given to their families. And so that's what death watch is. And then we had another question, and I think Abe, you can answer this one. Is there any
I'll address that in a few minutes, but let's go to Miranda because she's got a report from us. Miranda, she went away. There we go. Miranda, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. People are coming out. It won't let me zoom in, but the media just came out, and I don't know if you guys can see the door, but I think that was the warden or somebody. And I think the witnesses should be coming out right now.
Well, then that is the indication, of course, that the execution has been carried out. Here it is. It's been taking a little bit longer these last few times I've been there when they come back out at within 30 minutes or 20 minutes. And so hopefully everything went okay in terms of smoothness and not too much suffering on behalf of, or by the prisoner and those involved. And I'm sure we'll hear media reports about that. But with that, we know that the execution has been carried out. And Miranda, thank you again for being there, and flag us if anything comes up, if we're still on, because we'll begin to wind it down now as we prepare for doing this again in 5 hours. We'll start back up once we're outside the prison. We'll be hosted by Jeff Hood and Ali Sullivan and Michelle and I and Charles and Suzanne and Randy and whoever else is out there at the prison will pop in at some point to hopefully much in the way that we do with this. We'll see who joins us. I'm expecting a few more Europeans because it's not the middle of the night, it's their morning when we get started. But for those of us who can come later on, please do, because it'll be very similar in terms of our setup and our guests, and although we're not even sure how many people will join us on our panel tonight, but in any case, let me just answer some of the questions here. So Abu is asking if there are international branches of death penalty action, and the answer is well, we don't really have branches. In fact, death penalty action is not technically a membership organization, but people have begun to ask about that. In fact, I mentioned earlier in the spring, a death penalty action group was formally established at George Washington University, and then they promptly had exams and went away for the summer. So we're going to pick back up with them when they come back and resume classes. But that's the first time anybody reached out and said, "Can we create a chapter?" And it's not something we've set out to do, mainly because it's a lot of work to maintain other structures, and we struggle just to maintain our own. But we empower activism. We encourage people to identify with death penalty action if that works for you. But when I went to become the field manager of New Jerseyans for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, I moved there in 2006, and and after we passed our bill that created a moratorium on executions there, and I was the field manager, and the first thing I said is, where are the groups? Do we have membership structures? And they said, no, we don't want membership structures. You have to manage those. You have to put a lot of bandwidth into them. What we do instead is, when we need something in a certain area, we go to the other groups. So, for example, whenever we needed to put pressure on a different legislator, we went to the Sierra Club and the local churches and the League of Women Voters and the NAACP chapters and other groups where we could come in and share for a few minutes and invite people to take action, and not have to worry about who's the next president of the group and who's going to make the brownies for the bake sale and that sort of thing. So it's just an organizing structure. And similarly, there aren't any chapters of Death Penalty Action, but it is because we've showed up where there wasn't anybody doing anything, or people asked for our help. On this Zoom right now, I think she's still here, is Jan. If you're still here, Jan Powell and a group of folks. Actually, Jan is still in the audience there, from Idaho, where the lawyers in Idaho for Mr. Creech, Thomas Creech, asked us to come out and help create the visibility, do the stuff that we do really well. And out of that, we started a conversation about what's going to be the next, what are we going to do in Idaho? And the current thinking is, we'll create the face of an organization with a web page, but really we'll begin to explore what's possible in the legislature. Same thing as we're doing here in Utah. We're going to explore what's possible, but we recognize that the legislature here is not ready for action on this. And by the way, here with us today was also Nicholas Cote, who's the Western Regional Organizer for conservatives concerned about the death penalty. And we're going to be talking about Idaho with that group as well. But he came in because they'd been organizing here already, and they had an attempt to pass a repeal bill a few years ago. And he's here, and he'll be with us tonight. And we'll hear from him tonight as well from that perspective. But the point is that in some states where they're ready to repeal the death penalty and they've got good traction and a good, strong organization that's well funded, such as in Ohio, it's a whole different animal. But we helped create the organization in South Carolina, South Carolinians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. We helped create, I started Floridians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty way back in 1998. We helped create what's happening now in Idaho, what's happening now in Utah, and we'll work with anybody who would like to work with us. And we try to make sure that there's always a way for people to take action and to shine a spotlight on these things and to lift up the visibility of our movement. And that's what Death Penalty Action does, and that's what our mission is. And that's why we're so grateful for those who empower us and invite us to work with them. And again, in spaces where nobody else is doing anything or not providing opportunity for anybody, regular people, to speak their minds and to be present, we'll show up and invite that. And Michelle will tell you that more than once in the past week, she's been pushed up in front of the cameras unexpectedly because it's not about us. It's about the local voices. And there she is coming back on camera. Michelle, you've stepped up really well and had to figure it out quickly. But it's not like you're incapable. And that's the truth for everybody. And that's the amazing thing. That's what we've created out of this, having had saturation news coverage last Friday and again on Sunday and again today. People are finding how to discuss and saying, we want to get involved. And one of the people tonight will be him and his wife, who are members of the Mormon Church, the Church of Latter-day Saints, LDS they call it, which is traditionally thought to be pro-death penalty. They wanted to be present with this. And amazingly enough, he's also a Gulf War veteran, and actually not Gulf War, but Iraq and Afghanistan, but wanting to get involved in this issue. Michelle, did you want to add anything?
Oh, there's kind of like an old saying that I heard a long time ago is, your circle is this big until somebody asks you to step over here. And then your circle becomes this big. Well, Abe, you did that to me at least 2 or 3 times this last week. But at the same time, you helped to educate me. You all did. And so my confidence level on what I need to do is growing. And so thank you again, because I never would have done this without you. So thank you for being with me.
No.
Thank you for pushing me in front of cameras I wasn't ready to be in front of. But I think it was important, and I am grateful, even though it was very uncomfortable. It's getting easier.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and Michelle is also, she was at a training in Washington, D.C. with the Catholic Mobilizing Network in June. And, we come at it from all these different places. So when somebody, Rex put in the, by the way, thank you, Andrea, for your comment there. Rex put a question in the comments about, what about finding a leading person in each state. And, the thing about that is it takes organizing, and it takes people stepping up and wanting to do the work. And you've seen, we've got a lot of different people that are active with us in different ways. I'm often the person out in front, and it's almost always my name on the emails, but it doesn't happen without a whole group of us. And it doesn't happen with a bunch more people supporting it and making it possible to do this work with finances and otherwise bringing resources to the table. And everybody brings what they can. And sometimes people go deep and bring something extra special. And sometimes people who have much more capacity bring what they've got. And it's not always money. Sometimes it's connection. Sometimes it's special gifts such as art or music, as we have from Brandon and sometimes other people in these things. But it's everybody stepping up. And Michelle and others, I want to tell you that as an organizer, and I see myself much more as an organizer than an activist, and much more as an organizer and a field person than an executive director. I never wanted to be an executive director, but here I am. But my number one job as an organizer, and your number one job as an organizer, is to find your replacement. Find the person that's going to keep doing the things after you move away and keep doing it somewhere else. So, sorry, Michelle, I'm tapping you, I'm tapping Kathleen, I'm tapping Tom, I'm tapping Randy. And, I want to come back and help do more training, but y'all don't need us to come back because we're going to leave a bunch of these signs. We're going to leave the tools, but really it's not about the tools. It's about people stepping into leadership. So anyway, Arthur has passed, and we're grateful to be together with everybody tonight. I want to invite Brandon to come back and take us out. Anybody that wants to get more deeply involved, send me an email, send us an email at info@deathpenaltyaction.org or abe@deathpenaltyaction.org, and we'll channel that in the right way that we can. Today's a bit of a crazy day. We had the Clemency hearing, which came out great, and with a lot of energy and organizing from everybody. Oh, here's Rob Dunn coming back, so we'll hear from him in a moment. And then we've got this execution, and then the next execution. So Rob, what can you tell us?
Well, as you reported, the execution has taken place. It is the 11th execution of the year. As I've been saying for a long time, there are 6 states who are primarily responsible for all the executions, for most of the executions in the United States. They're responsible for 90% of all the executions in the 2020s. And that streak will be broken tomorrow if Utah goes through with the execution of Tabaran Honey. But Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Alabama, Missouri, and Georgia, those 6 states are responsible for 2/3 of all the executions by states in the past 50 years. They are responsible for 87% of all the executions by states in the last decade. And as I said, 90% since 2020, every execution last year and so far this year. So it's the same habitual executioners who are responsible for most of the people who are being executed in the United States these days.
So Rob, what number are we up to in terms of overall numbers of executions?
I
Yeah.
not I don't have it off the top of my head. I think 1592,
I think
something
it's
like that.
1593. I have it on my
1593
whiteboard.
now. Yeah.
The
Okay.
number on my whiteboard.
Yeah.
This is 1593. Tonight's, if it happens, will be 1594. Yeah, it's not about the numbers, and people shouldn't be referred to as a number. And yet, at the same time, I will share with you. I know, Rob, you're somewhere in this range too. But the first round number execution I can remember being outside the prison for was Flint Gregory Hunt, who was executed in Maryland in the late 19, it would have been 96 or 97, but that was the 400th execution. And now we're approaching 1600. So we've been at this through, more than nearly 1200 or more than 1200 executions, which is astounding if you think about it. And Michelle was asking, how do you deal with this? And you, Rob, as an attorney who's seen, I don't know if you had any of your clients executed, but you've certainly held a lot of people's hands through this process. You have to silo it. You have to recognize that this is part of. It's just like trauma doctors or other people that deal with traumatic situations. Tomorrow we're going to be in some water somewhere looking at nature. That's what we're doing. And by the way, Rob, it may be tomorrow technically, but it's 5 hours from now, really, in this next execution. So I hope you can stay up late and come back and talk about Tabernacle Honey at 1 o'clock in the morning your time. But that's our space.
Yeah. The other.
Thank you, everybody. Go ahead.
I would say the other thing, though, the good note that we keep talking about is that while each of these is pretty painful, the numbers are significantly down, and in terms of the overall decrepitude of capital punishment in the United States, last year was the first year in history in which the number of executions was actually larger than the number of new death sentences. And that wasn't because executions were significantly up. It was because new death sentences were significantly down. And so as bad as the executions are, with the possible exception of the very lax new rules in Florida that allow a death sentence even when 1/3 of the jury votes for life, setting aside Florida, we are certainly in a circumstance now where new death sentences are not being imposed across the United States.
Thank you, Rob. So people have been asking about the vigil for Tabernacle Honey, which is coming up in a few hours. I put in the chat our standard address. So we use a bit.ly, bit.ly / person's first name, person's last name, and a cap. Each name is capitalized because the what do you call it? That's the that matters. So you'll see Tabernacle Honey. VV, capital VV for virtual vigil. So that's the link to get to the Zoom registration, very similar to how it was for tonight. And we always start them an hour before the scheduled execution time. So the scheduled execution time tonight is 12:01 a.m. And that translates in Mountain Time. So 2 hours earlier is Eastern Time, 1 hour earlier is Central Time, 1 hour later is Pacific Time. And of course, we'll leave it to all of you who are outside of the continental United States to figure it out for yourselves. But essentially, we're talking 2 a.m. Eastern Time is the execution time, which means that at 1 a.m. Eastern Time or 11 p.m. Mountain Time is when we start the virtual vigil. So Brandon is expecting to be back with us. Ali and Jeff will be with us. A bunch of people that you've seen tonight will be out at the prison, and we'll be in and out of this. And we're grateful for you all. So please go to deathpenaltyaction.org and sign the petitions. And Brandon, take us away.
Well, the moon is
Brandon.
broken. Oh, are we ready?
I was just introducing you. Brandon Piper.
Well, the moon is broken. Tonight the sky is cracked. Come on up to the house. The only thing you can see is all that you lack. Come on up to the house. Well, you're high on top of this mountain of woe. Won't you come on up to the house? Well, you can surrender, you can let go. You can come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. This world is not my home, I am just passing through. Come on up to the house. Well, life can be nasty, brutish, and short. Come on up to the house. The seas might be stormy and you can't find no port. You can come on up to the house. You can come on up to the house. You can come on up to the house. This world is not my home, I am just passing through. Come on up to the house. You see, there's something in this world still left to do. You can come on up to the house. You've been whipped by the forces that are outside of you. You can come on up to the house. You can come on up to the house. You can come on up to the house. This world is not my home, I am just passing through. Come on up to the house. This world is not my home, I am just passing through. Come on up to the house. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Come on up to the house. I once was lost, but now I am found. Come on up